For the Life of the World is a production of the Yale Center for Faith and Culture. Visit us online at faith.yale.edu.
You're listening to For the Life of the World, and I'm Evan Rosa with the Yale Center for Faith and Culture. Today's episode is part 4 of a 5-part book club series, produced and hosted by Kelly Corrigan. She's the PBS host and author of 4 New York Times bestselling memoirs. She's taking a deep dive into the latest book from the Yale Center for Faith and Culture. It's written by Miroslav Volf, Matt Crosman, and Ryan McAnally-Lintz. It's called Life Worth Living, A Guide to What Matters Most. It's based on a Yale College course that's been taught for over 10 years that has taken up some of the most pressing questions of life and then pulls them in close. All these implications, challenges, confusions, demands, and both the course and the book then invite lifelong learners to ask, in light of these, how would your life have to change? In this episode, Kelly convenes a podcast book club with 2 of her friends, Kate Bowler, host of the Everything Happens podcast, and associate professor of American religious history at Duke Divinity School, and actress Claire Danes, who starred in the Showtime series Homeland and the 90s MTV hit series My So-Called Life. If you're interested in reading along with Kelly, Kate, and Claire, you can visit lifeworthlivingbook.com. That's where you can find links to buy the book, as well as a free discussion guide to start a book club of your own. And you sign up for the Life Worth Living email list. Special thanks to Kelly Corrigan, and thank you to you for listening, friends. Enjoy.
Welcome back to Kelly Corrigan Wonders. I'm Kelly Corrigan, and today is the last of my 3 conversations with the supremely talented actress Claire Danes and best-selling author, professor, and podcast host Kate Bowler. We're winding up our book club. The 3 of us read a book called Life Worth Living, A Guide to What Matters Most by Miroslav Volf, Matthew Crosman, and Ryan McAnally-Lintz. And we decided to meet 3 times to talk through the big ideas and the very demanding questions that book puts to each of us. For instance, what to do about our inevitable failures to live up to our values, how easy or hard it is for us to apologize or recognize when we've been wrong, what to do with regret. We talked about big topics we've changed our mind about and practices we use to help us stay aligned with our highest values. So let's jump into a great conversation with Claire Danes and Kate Bowler. Hi, ladies.
Hi.
How are you?
Very well.
Okay, so here's a confession. Sometimes I get down on myself and my husband and even the girls because I feel like we've gotten to this place where we feel like it's totally acceptable to scratch every itch. They'll say, we really need one of these blenders that can make a really good smoothie, or an emulsion blender or whatever. And we're in this society that's saying you don't keep a blender for 20 years.
Mm-hmm.
You get a better blender. So I wondered, when you feel gross, when is the last time you felt gross? Specifics I want. And then conversely, what are you doing when you feel the most beautiful? I know.
Gross, in terms of consumption?
Yeah. Or some other version that I haven't thought of.
You can be ethically gross.
Yeah, you can be ethically gross. Totally.
Yeah. That's a good question.
Hear that sound? Oh, that's her sound. Signature sound of
I'm a Foley artist. I bought a piece of jewelry that was aggressively expensive. And it's because I was feeling really awful in my pregnancy. I was just feeling so hideous and kind of claimed. And it felt naughty. It was a naughty purchase.
Is it on your person right now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, yeah.
It's but I was a little angry. It was a slight rebellion. And it didn't even matter what it was so much. It was just that it was too much.
Yeah.
And it was just for me.
Yeah. Right.
And
you're not we're all going to wear it. We're actually going to trade it around this table in the next 5 minutes.
But we could, if you want to feel less gross. I'm just saying.
Yeah, I felt a little gross, but I felt deviant. And it wasn't gross exactly. I mean, it was. I felt like I was acting out.
Uh-huh.
And, it was
You had a case of the fuckets.
Yeah, I totally did.
Yeah. I get those, especially after I make some money. Like if I do something, if I fly to Indiana and give a speech, and I come home, I've got like the fuckets. Like I am scanning for something. I want to buy something.
Yeah, I think I felt deprived in some way. And I think that does what, I mean, it was like I was shoplifting, but I bought it, you know, but it was that same kind of impulse. So I don't know if that's gross necessarily, but I was working something out that I probably could have just done in another way.
Yeah. Yeah. But you know, it's interesting. I sort of feel like part of that is just awesome marketing over 30 years of consciousness where people are like, you deserve it. Like that line and that idea really can have power over me, where it's like, that was really uncomfortable. That whole situation, it was hard and I didn't sleep well. And now I'm on a different time zone and I've sacrificed my sleep for 2 more nights and you deserve it is a very dangerous and effective marketing line. What about you? Have you done anything that makes you feel gross lately?
I love this. I love the casualness of that too. You're like, are you a gross person? Sometimes I am a gross person.
Yeah.
I have a complicated relationship with money, I think, because almost everything makes me feel gross when it shouldn't. So I think I more just have like an exaggerated view. And I think maybe the gross part is I now have an exaggerated view about what I need that I feel protective about. So it's not even like, oh, here we are in the freewheeling fun part. It's like, no. I don't care if it said 2 bajillion smargs. This is mine and this is what my family needs.
Yes.
Because I now have in my head that every single cost spirals out of control. And I like had it all in checking until recently because I thought like, wow, we really need to have this available. And then someone was like, what are we talking about here? Like, let's just be a little bit more specific. And then so I just showed them my stuff and they're like, yeah, those are not needs. Like you could just sell your house or you could like just naming things that I had thought of as being like the bubble, but it was very like Atlas style. Like I'm going to hold this whole thing up and then anyone who touches it now, congratulations, I will now carry you. So I had all sorts of people who really even shouldn't be financially dependent on me that I imagined were my responsibility. And I think that is all just because I almost bankrupted my family and my extended family from medical bills when I was sick. So I just get really like...
Yeah, you got to save it and keep it and hold it.
Oh, no, it's mine. And then it's everywhere. And so even like saving up for college for Zach I mean, we're beyond what I ever got and I was okay. But it's not that. Everything I always have to like spiral it out 20 years. Right. And none of that is realistic, but it feels... like I would fight you. If you challenged me, I would fight you on this.
Right.
What are you doing when you feel beautiful or just right or in the zone?
Well, I probably have slept enough. And I've probably moved my body and I've been close to the people I love. And eaten a good thing.
Yeah. Totally.
I would say the basic needs were met sufficiently. It tends to be when I'm just eating a good meal with people I love. That's really...
Yes. That is it.
That's kind of...
And it's always mid. And I'm like, yeah, it's happening.
Right.
It's happening right now.
Yeah.
I find that when I want to take a picture, I'm happy.
Yeah.
Or I feel beautiful. Like actually what, when you say feel beautiful, that's the correlation. Like it means that I'm content or I'm happy.
Totally. Settled.
And I think, oh, right. Yeah. It's when I want to capture a moment.
Yeah. I feel like when I'm listening to the girls and sometimes at some cost to myself, like when I can see that I'm supposed to be somewhere else on my schedule and they're going and I'm just letting them go. Or when they were younger and they would start the big heavy conversation at like 10, 18 at night, which might as well be 4 a.m.
Right.
According to me, like I'm like definitely in bed by 9 o'clock. So it's like, what? But kind of sitting up and committing and having them understand that it's like there's no back end here. Like you just go ahead. And one time Claire during the pandemic like started to let it out, maybe 8 months into it. She was like, and this sucks and that sucks and this isn't going to happen and that's not going to happen. And I just kept saying, what else? Go on. Tell me more. Like, and she must have listed 150 things that really sucked about the pandemic for her.
Yeah.
And I was like, hit it.
Yeah.
Keep going. And it almost got funny.
Right.
Like she was like digging for things. I'm like, more, give me more. But it felt also like, I felt like that was like a beautiful interaction between the two of us. Like she was having the joy of like being heard and seen and not judged for, because they're not whiny kids.
Right.
It's not their nature. So it's nothing to worry about. But you're allowed to like flip.
Right. And you felt robust enough to receive it. That must have felt really good.
Yeah, that day. You know,
right.
Who knows what combination of sleep and greens and hydration allowed me to be like, keep going. Like, give me the whole thing. Like, say everything that you thought you would never say. Say it all. I don't care.
My dad always says, it's nice to be nice when you can be nice.
Oh, I like that.
It's really helpful.
It's nice to be nice
when you can be nice. Because, when you feel so self-congratulatory, you're like, look at me being amazingly generous here. And you're like, oh, because I was granted those powers today.
It's temporary. Temporary powers. Oh, my God. That's so good. Look at me. Feeling it on the human scale. I wish someone could see this.
I'm having peak. I can tell when I'm having like a peak feeling, and I can tell because I lose the ability to narrate the situation, which is my ability.
Right.
That's where I'm at my most comfortable, and I've noticed that it's the same situation. I've got my kid and my husband there, and I moved to be 3 minutes away from my best friend and her husband and their 2 little girls.
Do you have slides in your respective yards? They go into the same one?
Kind of.
I mean,
it could be one notch better.
I did buy, my first purchase was bunk beds with a little trundle underneath, and it was totally that feeling. It's like, and then we could all...
Like stepbrothers, like you have to clear the room for activities. We have special activities.
Could we just hold hands falling asleep and we could have the same dream?
Yeah, it was like a little bit that feeling.
Because things are always just like this swirly, bad family chaos feeling was familiar to me. And so when I can see them just like buzzy buzz and nothing will happen, like nothing will happen the whole time.
Right.
In the loveliest way.
Yes.
And, we do our little grace and like people are nailing the harmonies, even if there's just too much confidence. It genuinely kills me to see their like entitlement to their own, like the ease of it. And I'm like, that's it. And like, people know I need to like, quote, go to the bathroom, which means I go stand and lean against the wall. I'm just like, oh, this is really beautiful. But it's always the feeling that something's beyond me and it hums with and without me. I think that's the bit that like kind of gets me.
Yeah.
Yes.
It's so beautiful.
It is.
It's so stupid.
She's crying.
Oh, it's fine.
We love it. We love her. There's a whole lot in the back half of the book about failure. So I think we should dig in hard here. Who helps you see yourself more clearly? Who holds you accountable to the person you want to be? And who's kind of helping you grow?
My dad, again, he's a really good guy.
Yeah.
But I remember I was going through, I was in like a little crucible in my 20s, which, duh, it's what the 20s are for.
Yeah.
And I was scared. I was distraught about this transition I was making. And I was like launching into a bad choice and I kind of knew it, but it just felt inevitable and necessary. And my dad said, well, I trust you, Claire. I even trust your mistakes.
Wow.
And it so served me, his confidence in me, and his willingness to allow me to go splat, and recover from that and be better for it ultimately, hopefully. But, the people that I've chosen to help me move through my life, right? And hopefully vice versa. My parents I was lucky enough to inherit, but my husband, my close friends, but sometimes it's just a random person who will interject and offer a correction or an admonition or a criticism or a piece of encouragement that will either resonate or not,
Right.
that I can't quite anticipate.
There is that role of the speaking of weak ties or whatever, of some person that's like on the periphery that makes a note that you think,
Yes.
oh,
You
for
made
some
a
reason, I'm so affected by it.
Yeah.
Like you've gone right through.
Yeah.
And then I'll say to Edward, you know what the makeup artist said to me when they were getting me ready for PBS? And he'll say, I've said that to you like 100 times. And I'm like, yeah, well,
But when they...
Luis, the makeup artist, said it
Right.
better. So
No, and
that's
sometimes it can
striking.
enrage you. You're like, how dare they say that thing?
Right.
And then you kind of,
Well,
right.
rage is something to pay attention to.
Yeah. But no, I mean, I've definitely fallen short of my own expectations or behaved in a way that seems really, that horrifies me,
Yeah.
Yeah.
on occasion.
Me
and
too.
it's terrifying.
I know, me too.
And I'll replay them in my head and,
Yes.
and wonder if that's actually the true expression of
Yes.
self that I've just been in total denial of this whole time, or
Right, or that you just
I'm shooing
reining
away,
it in,
or but
I trust
There
your
it is.
mistakes. It's
Yeah.
so good. My best friend from growing up, we met in judo camp. We both had Sensei Bob. Who,
sure.
Now looking back, did not know much about the mystical art of judo, I think. But Chelsea and I have been friends, like witness to my life. But we started doing something in the pandemic, I think, because there was just so much walk and talk
Right.
that I have never done with another person, which is that I tell her the full thought, including all of the ugly parts, because we talk every day. The feeling that she can see all the sort of like inside out, all the seams of every shirt for me. I've let her see the uglier part of my
yes.
like embarrassment, or like it's just pre-filter. And I don't think I've ever really gotten that far
Yes, yes.
with somebody before. And then I can tell that if we both kind of walk the thought down the line, I do have the sense that she would say, I trust that mistake.
Yeah.
Like she'd be like, all right, let's wind it up.
right.
Let it go. You said to me very nicely one time, you were like, oh, you clean up really fast about my own worries.
Yeah, you say something
And then I'm like,
devastating, and then you're like, I'll take that I have
back
stage
now.
4 cancer.
Yeah.
And it's like, you don't have to clean up that fast. I can handle it.
It is a nice feeling to be a little rougher around the edges,
Yes.
and then to kind of learn to trust myself backwards, having had that. When they look at you with their googly love eyes, and you're like, yeah, okay, maybe
Right.
maybe I got this.
Yeah, I feel like I often preface things I say to Edward with, please don't throw this back at me in a weak moment. But I just want to admit that I felt super judgy when, or I think I've been a bit of an asshole.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for me to think he's going to throw it back at me. I don't think he ever has thrown it back at me. But that's how vulnerable I feel, is like, you might like me a little bit less. When I tell you what I'm about to tell you, you might think I'm not as neat
Yeah.
as you thought 5 minutes ago.
Yeah.
And that's probably true.
Yeah.
Like, but it's also, there's just a whole, I don't know. You just can't hold it in anymore. I'm 55. I'm too old to not say, like, I
Although there are some things that I will protect my most intimate partners from. I have also learned that too. Like, that full disclosure isn't always kind or possible. And that, I have to be discerning about who I share what with.
yeah.
Even my most trusted friends.
Yeah.
And, that was a painful thing to learn, actually.
Yeah.
That I can't go splat willy-nilly
Yes.
all the time with everyone.
Yes.
But, I mean, look, it's not like I'm generally withholding. It was just
No, but chambers to the heart. I get it.
yeah. So you have to be careful, or just conscious or intentional about what you're sharing when, with whom.
I think one of the signs of maturity in my children is that but also it makes me a little bit sad, is that they sometimes shine up their report for me.
Right.
Because they want me to sleep well. And then they'll crash somewhere down the line.
Yeah.
And I'll say, have you been giving me like happy reports, sunny reports, just to ease my mind? Because I really, at the end of the day, first of all, I can totally handle it.
Yeah.
And second of all, I really want you to have a place where you can say it all.
Yeah.
But
You're a good mom. That sounds like a good mom.
But they're doing what you're talking about, which is to say, like, I can't splat this all over my mom. Like, she loves me too much. It's going to be too painful for her to carry. And it's like, well, there's even a place beyond my pain or pleasure that I would like us to be able to inhabit when needed.
Right. Well, it's very moving that they're holding you in mind.
I know.
And it's very moving that you can recognize that and remind them that they don't have to do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's a good relationship.
I hope so.
Goals.
Yeah.
Hashtag goals.
And we're out. Coming up next, we'll dig into messy topics like apologies, failure, and regret, and why being good at repair is key. We'll be right back with Kelly Corrigan Wonders. Welcome back to Kelly Corrigan Wonders. I'm Kelly Corrigan, and I'm talking with award-winning actress Claire Danes and Duke Divinity professor Kate Bowler about what makes life worth living. How good are you at apologizing? Because the book makes a big deal about saying I was wrong and working through repair. I think the dominant message that's coming through is like there will be failure. It will never end. And therefore, learning to be good at repair is like key. And then it shares all these different ideas.
I remember it was like in 5th grade or something. I kind of learned the power of an apology. It was so effective. I don't know who I wronged, but I thought, oh, this is amazing. I can just apologize. Yeah. And you know, and there was something kind of sincerely valuable about that. But there was also something like a little naughty about, like, oh, I can maybe be a little disingenuous in my apology.
That's right. Like if I can just wipe it away.
And get something that out of it that I want, that really serves me.
Right.
So
better to say you're sorry than to ask permission. Like that whole idea in business, people say it all the time. And it's like,
so we have to be careful
exactly
with the apologies.
Yeah. My sister and I figured out the key to that, though. When we are sorry, then you say sorry. But when you're not, you just say sorry. And if you say it really quickly, we're like, wait a minute. Did you say you were sorry, or did
like
you say
Dr.
you were
Seuss
sorry?
Sorry.
Sorry is like actually works its way in pretty seamlessly. Yeah. So I
remember thinking about confession.
Yeah.
Like we used to have to go to confession when we were little.
Yeah.
And I always thought, so what is this like? What's the deal here? Like I just take money from my dad's wallet all week long. And then I go to confession and I say, I took money from my dad's wallet and I use the Lord's name in vain. And they say 12 Hail Marys and you're done. I'm like, fantastic. That is a small price to pay.
Did you kind of push the limits of naughtiness and to see how much it would be erased by
the contractual nature?
Confession?
Yeah. I mean, I eventually worked my way up to shoplifting, which was instead of stealing from my dad, I stole from Sears.
Did you tell your whomever?
No, I was too old at that point. I was like, you know, smoking cigarettes and wearing short skirts and clogs. You know, once you're in that phase.
Right.
Mascara. My mom was so disturbed.
And did you feel gross when you did that?
To be totally honest, I felt gross when I got caught. There's something about wronging an institution that is fundamentally different emotionally than wronging a person. So if I stole from another human being, I think I would feel gross in the act and after the act and reflecting back on the act.
Right.
There's something about stealing from Sears or your company by working on your own personal projects on company time or using all the equipment. Or I mean, I used to try to write in my 20s when I worked at United Way. And I would write at my desk and then I would print it out. And on our printer, you had to put in your number. You know, like I was 136. And so that someday somebody might audit who's using the printer so much. I mean, this is like when printers were more expensive, I guess, than they are now. And I remember thinking that I was supposed to feel as though I was doing something wrong. I was supposed to feel like I'm stealing company time and company supplies and company ink and paper. But of course I didn't. But I wouldn't print on somebody like my next door neighbor's printer without them knowing.
Right.
Yeah.
Are you good at apologizing?
I'm good with my son. He's just so like, oh, thank you. Okay. Oh, thank you.
Oh.
And I just like, wow, I'm learning something about how easy it feels. But I'm great at apologizing to my friends.
How about your husband?
I'm not.
Really? Why do you
Sorry,
think that
Tobin.
is?
Because Tobin Penner, I hope you're listening. We are usually in an indirect communication loop. So my argument has always been, I would be able to give and receive apologies quickly if it was a clear communication. But I'm usually kind of on pause, waiting for the whole sweater to unravel on the thing. So I find I kind of sit there sort of begrudgingly for a really long time, just sort of waiting for the whole thing to play out. And it's not a good look. I mean, I wish I could, for instance, just accept and give an apology early on in a way that I wasn't sort of waiting for something else to like even up how bad or good I should feel about the situation. I think at a good apology, you're not playing any long game.
Right.
You can settle up your own thing before you've gotten what you deserve.
Oh gosh, there's very little that's worse than knowing I've wronged my kid in some way, you know, that I've failed them. Yeah. It's like nauseating.
I know.
And I really need to apologize for my own well-being, because nothing really quells the anxiety until I admit that I've fallen short. And it helps. I mean, but sometimes it takes them a while to accept the apology because they're still smarting, you know, they're still kind of injured. And that's also tough, but important, you know, and
for sure,
and helpful for me to sit with. It's hard to apologize when there isn't that clarity about, like, sometimes I think this is kind of what you were talking about with your husband. Like, wait, but did I underperform? Did I wrong you? I mean, is there some bigger dynamic at play here that I just haven't fully sussed out? Am I accepting undue responsibility? Because actually, I think I do readily assume guilt that isn't quite deserved. I've been conditioned that way for some reason, and it's it's a little reflexive, and it's not always a great move.
For sure.
It can seem virtuous and
totally.
And actually it's just I haven't been as bad as I suspect, or
right. And then you pop up like 3 days later and you're like, wait a minute. I've totally over apologized and you accepted it. So now I'm mad at you for sort of going along with my personal browbeat. Like, you should have said it wasn't that bad.
So you guys need to try my option then. You just sort of wait it out. You make the argument at least twice as long as it needs to be.
Yeah.
So you're just trying to figure out if you really deserved it.
Right.
Yeah.
You know?
And that's fair. Like, I think every circumstance is specific, and, you know, it's a hard call sometimes.
I feel like that my greatest regret as a parent is yelling. And there was one time I yelled, and honest to God, I can't remember what it was about, which just says it all. And then I was downstairs in the kitchen, and the kid was upstairs, and I was just breathing it out like, God almighty, Kelly, like, that was insane.
Right.
Like, you went stark raving mad for about 30 seconds there. And, like, God bless us. There's a lot of surface area to motherhood. So there's, I don't know, 5 million minutes. And for 30 seconds, you went bananas. It's not going to be forgotten.
Right.
It's not going to be trumped by all the minutes you didn't go bananas.
Right.
So then I'm in that zone where I'm defending myself for myself. Like, it's okay. It's a long game and whatever. But then I just remember going upstairs and saying, you should never let anyone talk to you the way I just talked to you. No boss, no boyfriend, no friend, nobody. No camp counselor, no coach. No one should ever talk to you like that, including me. And I cannot possibly send you into your life thinking that that's like going to happen every so often. And that's how it, you know, adults lose their shit every now and then. It's like, they shouldn't. And I did, and God help us all. You know, but it's a sickening, per your point about the gap between the moment of apology and the moment of forgiveness, like that space in there really belongs to them.
Yeah.
And you are not allowed to
That's
rush
right.
them through that.
That's right.
Or you're undercutting your apology.
Yeah.
Which is like, you forgive me yet?
Yeah.
Forgive me yet?
Yeah,
You
yeah,
mad?
yeah.
You still mad at me? Still
Right.
mad at
It
me?
can't be about you.
Right.
Right.
Is there something you can remember, like the last time you changed your mind about something really big? Like, how flexible are you in your thinking? Because if we're going to talk about failure and repair, it probably necessitates things like beginner mind and first principles. Like, there's stuff in the book about returning to some kind of core space. And I think that's what so many religions and philosophies do, is they lay out the tenets that you're supposed to be able to refer back to again and again as a way of like checking yourself. And I just wonder for myself and for you guys if there's something big that you've thought better of as you've gotten older.
That's a big question. That's very hard to answer.
Yeah.
I guess maybe my earning mentality has been one of the biggest shifts in my life.
Earning?
Earning. I was such a little earner. I mean, I'm going to be good. Aren't I so good? I'll show you. I'm so
Right.
good. Watch the consistency of this behavior over time. I'll work hard, and then I won't use the word deserve, but I'll assume it. And I'm like slowly building like Lego, this big, tall, incredible edifice of my accomplishments, but I won't say accomplishments. And I'm going to stack up all of my small actions into this thing, and then I will point at it if I ever feel bad, or if I wonder if you think I'm doing something.
Yes.
And I'll be like, look at that. And some of it I'll frame. Most of it I'll frame. Oh, I love a good framed accomplishment. Yeah. And I'm like such a just like prestige porn. I'll just be in it.
Yeah.
And I'll just roll around in it. And then I'll find a way to bring it up. But I think because I've seen things kind of, maybe even like the speed with which things can come together or come apart has made me really change my mind about when I meet somebody or when I'm looking at my own life, whether I can think of it as whether I fundamentally I think my life is something I choose, and also just maybe my ability to change. Like I thought it had to kind of be slow, accumulated everything, and now I sort of think like if life can turn on a dime, like maybe I can make some fast decisions too. I can be more agile. And then at every version, maybe there's like a whole different world that I get to discover because it changed so fast.
Right.
So I guess because even in the bad thing, like I'm just thinking like years and years lost to hospital time, it also felt like a full rediscovery of like people, things I'm intellectually curious about, like philosophically, religiously, relationally. I lost almost all my friends. I have different friends.
Wow. Yeah.
And like, I thought I would because I'm someone who kind of, I guess, defines myself by my friendships. I thought, who am I if I don't love the same people and do the same things?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And now I think, wow, life has so much more variability.
Yeah.
And precarity is the bad part of that, but maybe it's also the good part of that.
Right.
So I guess every time I feel vertigo, and I've been having a lot of that sort of vertigo feeling lately of like, wow, everything's changing, and it stirs up all this sediment of like, whoa, I can't earn it. Does that make me a lot of does that make me bad? Thank you so much for this book.
Yeah.
But I guess I am kind of realizing that change also is I'm becoming more courageous and not less scared. And I guess, so I guess I thought that's kind of odd. But
Wow.
I think the thing I was thinking about that's changed about me is an honest assessment of what unconditional love means, because it's so commonly tossed around as if it's just innate. And I don't think it's innate. I actually think that a lot of people who unconditionally love another person are still trying to change them a little bit, are still kind of editing them in their mind. And I had it with my mom, and it was really only a reciprocation of what she had already given me. And I didn't notice it until I was in contact with so many other friends whose moms were still trying to edit them. Oh, is that what she's going to do? She's not going to get her first communion? Oh, does she want to? She's not going to play lacrosse. She should play lacrosse, don't you think? Well, she had those bangs.
Right.
We don't want her to have bangs. Like, my mom never says things like that.
Yeah.
My mom's never trying to change me. My mom didn't try to make me move home from California to Philadelphia. I'm a Democrat. My mom's a Republican.
Right.
She never, ever is trying to persuade me of that.
Right.
But I was trying to persuade her.
Right.
I was like, "Ooh, you should really drink organic. Oh,
Right.
you should. This beer is gross. You should try this fancier beer. Mom, you've got to like look at Obamacare. Like, you know, big things, little things. Like, how long have you had those pants, Ma? Like, let's get you some new pants. Like, just all sorts of editing, small and large, like touching. And then all of a sudden, because I saw her through the eyes of my friends who were like, God, your mom never says things like that. I'm like, no, never.
Right.
Then it was like, well, you owe her. Give it back.
Oh,
and now it's like, when I go to Philadelphia, we'll just do whatever she wants to do. She wants to watch some basketball and then followed by some Fox News in front of the fire that we turn on and off with a clicker, and drink wine from an old plastic glass that's like 30 years old over ice cubes.
Yeah.
Which also had a little vodka on them an hour ago. Whatever. Like, I don't care anymore. There's so much advising and editing that goes on between people who love each other that, to me, does not totally equal unconditional love.
Well, I think that sounds more like unconditional like, though, because I do think that there's an undercurrent of love that is involuntary and that is unchangeable.
That's interesting.
You know, because, and I mean, that's another thing that I've been grateful to just learn, that I've, just grateful for the amount of time that I've been afforded on this earth in this life, because the fights that I've had with my mom some of them have been gory, you know, and we've exposed the worst of ourselves to each other. And it's awful. And then we come back again. And once we've repaired that immediate hurt and damage, we can arrive at a place of ease or grace, or, you know, and we can be in a pleasant space together, you know, and that's always something that we can return to. Thank God. It's tough. I mean, oh gosh, what was I thinking of when you were, oh God, I've lost the thought. You said such beautiful things. All of you have said such, all of you, the two of you. But,
we seem like more.
But sometimes I'm really discouraged when, you know, it's like the same stuff keeps kicking.
Yes.
Like I'm still on this stupid lesson. Like
I know.
What is it going to take for me to really confront this thing and
maybe it's
move
unconditional
beyond it?
Acceptance.
Yeah,
because there's something about even that.
I was being a little glib with the like, but you know,
but even that loop of like, how many times am I going to trip over the same stone?
Right.
It is like, there is a way to accept, like, forever.
Yeah.
You're going to trip over it forever. Right. Like, there's something about the way you work and the way you operate and the way the world is that's going to clash every so often. And maybe the best you can hope for is that there will be fewer per year. Yeah. And they will feel less dramatic.
Yes. I think
over
that's
time.
right.
And that's pretty much.
Yeah. And I guess I remember too what you were talking about, how change. So I have thought that change is kind of steady and incremental. And I've observed that actually that's not the case, that there can be these subterranean movements that you're not that aware of. And then there's an eruption and everything is forever altered in a really consequential way. And that is surprising. Yeah. But, you know, I mean, both are true. That's easy. But, you know, I mean, in some cases, it's just a chipping away. It's just making it slightly better, like gentle modifications. Yes. And then other times there is something, you know,
tectonic.
Yeah.
I guess when I think about the life I need to, like, maybe a day I need to build, it does have more of these incrementalist, like, I really should eat a salad, that kind of like stabilizing that I've learned as an adult that I didn't know when I was younger. Right. And I feel really grateful for how I feel like it puts it like in the, when you go bowling and I can just fill in both gutters. Like maybe then I don't have to feel wildly destabilized at 11 p.m.
Right.
Or first thing in the morning. Right. Oh, look, like I maybe it's because I've been, you know, reading these hundreds of self-help books. Some of the habits as tools, I have felt more built up. But those big, like, man, those big chords in us that other people play.
Yeah.
It's not a different song. I have not been singing a different song for decades now.
I'm just remembering too that my objectives and my obligations have been different at different stages of my life.
Yeah.
Like, I don't think I felt entitled to live a balanced day in my 20s. That felt indulgent because I have to cycle through a lot of identities to figure out which one is the best one. And I have to kind of, I have to be as omnivorous and voracious and expansive as possible in this moment. And there was kind of something to that.
Yeah.
Like, I have made a lot of defining choices that I can settle into now. Yeah. And it gets more granular and I can think about salad, But sometimes in my 20s, I'd be sort of paralyzed. I'd wake up and think like, I have to go to Jamaica Queens to eat the chicken at that restaurant that I'll never get to again, you know? And there's some truth in that. Like, I don't even have that fantasy anymore. That's so remote. I'm never going to be able to, I can barely watch Succession. Like, so I don't know. I mean, I think I can settle into, just the basic stuff of remaining sane and reasonably decent, because the bandwidth isn't that great anymore.
So the place I wanted to end this whole exciting series that I could do forever is on practices. So I asked the guys, like, what do you do to keep yourself in touch with your kind of highest values and hopes for your life?
Yeah.
And one of them brought up Shabbat dinner, and then the sundown to sundown, like no work, no phones, no interaction with the sort of modern distractions, and just more of a period of being each week. Miroslav brought up everyday forgiveness, which I thought was a pretty powerful thing. I've been thinking about it since he said it. Do you have little practices that you've incorporated into your life other than walking and salads and what we've already hit, that keep you in the right band of being?
I have like a hysterically honest, quiet time for a little, and it's not even quiet. I'm basically ranting at what I believe to be a benevolent and omnipotent force. And it's only like 5 to 10 minutes a day kind of thing. But I'm just having it out. I'll just sit there and sometimes I'll do a nice thing where I'll like have candles, and then for the length of the match, I'll like pray for different people. And I like doing that because each one, it helps me like focus on their needs and praying for them. That's another one. But the one for me, I never prayed this honestly before. And I mean, like really ugly stuff, which I just laugh after because it brings me a certain amount of joy to be like, what are you doing with this? Right. So I was at a funeral the other day, a person that I have not forgiven because they are truly terrible. And I wanted very much to bring that up again. Yeah. Came in and I had to go through this like shared spiritual experience with them. And I just sat there being like, what are you doing, God, about this guy?
Right.
I've never had that kind of like freewheeling. I don't feel like I have to be a good person. It was just been
in
wonderful.
This quiet conversation.
I feel less polite about my faith, and it's felt really cathartic, especially when I don't know the ends of like ethically the ends of a choice I want to make. Not forgiving someone makes me feel bad, and just being able to rehearse the whole thing has felt.
So are these actual designated spaces that like you go into a room and you give yourself this time, or is it sometimes just kind of spontaneous in your own mind when you're in a public setting, or how does that work?
If I'm at home, I'll go out on the porch because I just love the birds and all that. It's lovely.
And do you actually vocalize this stuff, or is it in your mind?
Mostly. Sometimes if you just saw me, you would just see a person being quiet with 2,000 emotions on their face and sometimes yelling, what the hell?
Right.
It's easier to rant if I'm walking. So if I'm walking in the woods, I might do some of that.
Very good for that.
It helps stave off some of the humiliation of talking to yourself. But I think it's because I have felt a little stuck lately that I'm just trying to do this as like the calm app is not doing it for me.
Yeah.
I need to feel like there's a spiritual punching bag feeling. And lately it's kind of been wonderful.
Yeah.
I did this thing when I was a kid where I would just look in the mirror, kind of in a trance-like state. Like I wasn't really exactly holding my gaze. And I would just talk, like free associate. And I was always amazed that I had so many solutions to these problems. And I found it really valuable. And I realized that I would be terrified to do that now. I'd be so afraid of what came out of me. And I'm intimidated by that exercise, by the thought of that now.
Of cutting loose in your mind.
Yeah, of just letting it go. Somehow, to a therapist, it's safer because I have an audience. It's more contained. But
yes,
just to the ether or just to what the God, or however you want to, contextualize it, that seems more daunting. I'm afraid of writing in a diary. For the same reason. Yeah. I'm actually afraid somebody's going to read it. I don't want them to read it.
No, I don't want
that's not safe enough.
I know.
That's something I should do because that would require real, courage for me. That would be very risky.
Yeah.
And I'm, embarrassed to admit that. But I don't know.
Write and rip. Don't be afraid to write and rip.
God.
Just write it and rip it up.
Yeah. Okay.
That double audience is so hard when the second you start writing. It's very 8th grade diary, Kate, where she's writing to a future self.
Yes.
I know.
And it's just full of apologies. What's my practice? This is pretty lame-o, but I've been doing yoga because I'm now pregnant and I usually do hot yoga, which I wasn't allowed to do. But she's a really wonderful teacher, Bethany Lyons. She has this place, Lyons Den. And she's been very, very kind and teaching me directly. And I'm just finding that.
Yeah.
So it's been such a gift because I'm learning a lot from her, specifically about the practice itself. But I think I'm just breathing with her a lot.
Yeah, totally.
And I'm just discovering how helpful that is and powerful. And I think, oh God, and it's so, God, there's nothing cornier or more trite that, it's like how many people have tattoos of breathe on their, the bottom of their backs or whatever. But I'm just starting to kind of realize how centering that is.
For sure.
And how much anxiety that relieves.
Yeah.
So
I have a little thing I've been doing, which is I find it very calming to say, who am I serving right now?
Mm-hmm.
Oh, that's
so
nice.
if I'm in conversation with someone, it's like, am I serving my own need to get something out or put my finger on something? Am I trying to serve you? Am I serving my mom? Am I serving Edward? Am I serving Georgia Claire? And then it helps me figure out where to be in it. And it often helps me completely drop out on my side. It's like, you can save that for another day. Like, you can get your needs met later today somewhere else. But right now, you do not need for her to know bip, bop, and bip. You're just receiving. Mm-hmm. And so then that opens up the list of keep asking questions, keep validating, and stop yourself from jumping in and accidentally inserting yourself in a way so that you could get a couple little needs met on the side. Just drop it. And I find it just relaxing. I feel less frantic conversationally when I know who I'm serving.
And then you're not inserting, hoping to be validated. You don't need the pings then. You're not searching.
Yeah, it's very relaxing.
Yeah.
Because it's relaxing to know what you're doing.
Yeah.
I mean, it's relaxing to have direction.
Right.
And so in that tiny moment, I'm clear on my goal.
Yes.
And once you're clear on a goal, then you're just halfway there.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any other practices?
I'm into that.
It's really fun. It's very different mind space.
Huh.
Because I have a little bit too much I always think of as when's the pizza coming energy. You know what I mean? A little too hyper anticipatory.
Yeah.
And I do find I'm at my most relaxed when there's a group energy that I can be but it's in the hyper ping, ping, ping feeling. So I do think letting that go might be, by saying, who am I serving? Might be kind of a nice, less golden retriever.
That just made me, he always makes fun of me because I have a lot of anxiety about being served in a restaurant. Like, I don't trust that the waiter's going to deliver the thing ever. And I can't relax until the food is on the table.
Yeah.
And I guess I do this thing where I say, sir? He always imitates me. Sir?
Yeah.
It's a little too tight, a little too high pitched. Like, can I just do it myself?
Right.
Please. I don't
great.
trust the intermediary.
Yeah. Ladies,
Oh my gosh.
that was awesome.
Thank you
for
so
doing
much.
this.
Love
That was
being with
really
you.
fun.
so
You're
happy.
such good people to talk to about this stuff. Really, truly. Thank you.
Yeah, the trivial stuff.
Yeah,
Yes.
exactly. Well, as Miroslav says, the risk is not that your life would be weighty with meaning, but that it would be unbearably light.
Yeah.
So nothing unbearably light this time. All right, ladies.
Okay,
Thanks.
thank you so much.
Here are my takeaways from my conversation with Claire Danes and Kate Bowler. Number 1, it's nice to be nice when you can be nice. Number 2, having someone in your corner who trusts even your mistakes can put a person on a very powerful trajectory. Number 3, rage is something to pay attention to. There are answers in that internal analysis. Number 4, full disclosure isn't always kind or possible, even with our closest relationships. Number 5, failure is unavoidable, so get good at repair. Number 6, the gap between the moment of apology and the moment of forgiveness belongs to the person you've hurt, and you are not allowed to speed them along. Number 7, when needs compete, ask yourself, who am I serving right now? These 3 episodes with Kate and Claire have been so powerful for me. I have loved re-listening to them, and I suspect that I will continue to. So I encourage you to share them with all the people in your life who are deep thinkers, who want to live a life of integrity and introspection, and who want a little encouragement and company along the way. In addition to a very special thank you to Claire Danes and Kate Bowler for book clubbing with me these past 3 episodes, I want to thank the authors of Life Worth Living, A Guide to What Matters Most. That's Miroslav Volf, Matthew Krausman, and Ryan McNally Lintz. Thanks also to the Yale Divinity School, the Yale Center for Faith and Culture, and Evan Rosa. Very special thanks to the Warren Smoot Carter III and Meagan Carter Charitable Fund. Thanks to Jessica Ritchie, who works with Kate, and also the team that works with me. That's technical producer Dean Kateri, executive producer Tammy Stedman, our graphic designer Gagi, and the 2 great women who help us think about cool ways to stay in touch with our audience. That's Charlie Upchurch and Rachel Hicks. Finally, thanks to you all for listening and sharing. You can always reach out to our team with feedback and suggestions. Our email is hello@kellycorrigan.com. We'll be back on Friday with a new For the Good of the Order, and on Sunday with a new Thanks for Being Here. Until then, I'll see you on Instagram @Kelly Corrigan.
For the Life of the World is a production of the Yale Center for Faith and Culture at Yale Divinity School. This episode featured Kelly Corrigan, Kate Bowler, and Claire Danes. Special thanks to Tammy Stedman and Kelly Corrigan, as well as the Warren Smoot Carter III and Meagan Carter Charitable Fund. Production assistance by Macie Bridge and Kaylen Young. For more information about Life Worth Living, visit lifeworthlivingbook.com. And for more information about the Yale Center for Faith and Culture, you can visit us online at faith.yale.edu. It's the end of the show here, and if you're following along with the book, that's wonderful, but have you considered giving this book to a friend? This is the kind of thing that's probably best discussed with others. So go buy another copy of the book and spread a little life worth living. Thanks for listening today.